3 questions. Would you ignore a woman collapsed in the street?
We should just wait till she comes back.
Would you stay in a building that appears to be on fire just because everyone else does? Would you humiliate someone for not fitting in?
For me, this is the most fascinating thing in the universe, is to try to understand the nature of human nature.
The Human Zoo. Find out what you're capable of. In a school playground, everyone's part of a gang. Going wherever the gang goes, doing whatever the gang does. That's how teenagers are. What's not so obvious is that adults are the same. Groups control us, all of us, more than you think. Welcome to the Human Zoo, an isolated house where we'll reveal the power of groups. Here, 12 strangers are living side by side with 15 cameras they know nothing about, while we watch their every move. Watch what happens when we split one happy family into 2 groups of 6.
Today we're splitting you into 2 groups.
I hadn't expected that.
It's been decided that there'll be a group A and a group B. The A team!
And suddenly that was like us against them.
I had no idea how it was going to pan out.
When it started getting a bit competitive and a bit heated, I thought, oh heck.
I thought there could be even a punch-up at one point.
I think we just have to make more of an effort, maybe not just as a team, maybe just everyone getting on together.
I anticipate a really hostile reaction to her if she doesn't shape up very quickly.
I knew they'd make us do this. They're so unkind.
They sulked about it.
We maintained the moral high ground.
They just took it to heart. That was really good.
Now she's enjoying the power, the real power that being a red has.
Yes! Yes, yes, yes!
But first, an ordinary day in an ordinary place. A service station off the M42 near Birmingham. We've come here to demonstrate a basic human need, the need to follow the herd. The man in the suit is Charlie, our actor, who's conducting a bogus general knowledge survey. The people with him are also actors briefed by us, except for the woman in the orange shirt.
Question 1, I'll start at your end. Where do we get ham from?
Pig. Pig.
Pig. Pig.
Easy, but now some impossible ones.
What is the cube root of 97?
14.
A completely wrong, made-up answer.
Yeah, 14.
14. 14.
14. Like, I was put at the end of the line and I didn't know half the questions asked to me, and so it sounded right to me. 4 out of 5 people said it, so why shouldn't I say it? So I think it's an automatic reaction to say or to go along with what people say.
What is the capital of Makata? What is the capital of Makata?
Jedi.
No such places as Makata or Jedi.
Jedi.
Jedi. Jedi.
Jedi. The first man I thought was rather intelligent, answering all the questions because everybody else seemed to go along with that.
Last question. What is the speed of sound? The speed of sound?
10,010 miles per hour.
Miles out.
10,010 miles an hour.
10,010 miles per hour.
10,010 miles per hour.
10,010 miles per hour.
OK.
I didn't want to look stupid. Everybody else seemed to know the answer, and so I said it too.
I was going to a baby massage class with my son Jake, who was 6 months, and there are about 15 other mothers, and the lady who was running the class said, "There's a baby outside who's German measles. Does anyone mind if the baby comes in?"
Me and my mates had gone down to a football match, and we were standing in the stand, and just away from the stand, a bit of trouble had started, where they decided to just wreck the ground.
My baby's health is, of the utmost importance to me. Yet, because no one else said anything in the room, I didn't say anything.
We just got caught up in the emotion of the thing and just ended up throwing seats as well.
And I think everyone was looking around the room, waiting for someone to say something, and no one did. So the baby came in.
And it's something I wouldn't normally do, but because everyone else was doing it, I just decided to join in.
The urge to conform is overwhelming. Groups have extraordinary power. So we decided to test that power in our human zoo.
Okay, guys, 10:30. Ready to rock and roll. Let's go. Come on.
The Lake District, an isolated house rigged with 15 hidden cameras. 2 psychologists, Mark McDermott and Phil Zimbardo, watching everything from a secret control room. And 12 participants who know they're taking part in a psychology program but don't know about our hidden agendas or our hidden cameras. Yesterday they arrived here from different parts of the country. We watched them forming first impressions of each other. We watched them take on challenges. We watched Richard finding it hard to fit in. And then steal as a result. All in all, they've bonded pretty well. But now it's 8 a.m. day 2, and we're about to change all that. We're going to divide them into 2 groups. How will that affect their behaviour?
Today we're splitting you into 2 groups. It's been decided that there'll be a group A and a group B.
I hadn't expected that. Because on the first day we did a lot of team building in a group, I think that I expected everyone to stay in a group.
From now on, the 2 teams are in competition with each other, OK?
Isn't it going to undermine your spirit if we're going to be, like, segregated?
So B group is the not-so-good group and A group is the good group.
We'll see.
The B's are Dave, Jones, Amit. Is that how you...
Well, you notice the atmosphere has changed. It was very gay and people laughing, a mix of apprehension, and now it's suddenly gotten serious. And they already know that there's a distinction, a dominance distinction. It's almost like grades in school. B is always worse than A.
A is better than B, red's better than blue, Manchester United are better than Liverpool, better than Everton. It's just the way it is, isn't it? A is better than B.
Straight away, the fact that you're the B team as opposed to the A team, it makes you feel as if you're sort of lesser people, if you like.
The A team!
We've divided them randomly and given them different letters and colours to wear. And that's all we've done. But it's already changing things. A few minutes later, they sit down to breakfast. But notice how they sit.
This is interesting, as they've both sat down at different tables, and they weren't told to sit at tables according to the colour of their T-shirts. They've done this quite spontaneously.
It's kind of birds of a feather are flocking together.
Flocking together, yeah.
And only 15 minutes after they were divided. Soon, the first evidence of friction between the A's and a B team member, Julia, at the back of the queue for breakfast.
Queue.
It's always been this way before.
No, it hasn't.
Hang on. We're competing now, so if we want to do this...
No, a queue is orderly, and it starts from that way, and everyone
I need their breakfast.
Just simply putting different colours on completely separated the 2 teams straight away. We acted as the A team, they acted as the B team, and I think we tried to differentiate ourselves.
Would you pass, Thomas, would you pass the pepper, please?
Have you not got
Thomas, you're going to have to consent. Look, you just took it from our table, so would you like to pass it, please? Thank you very much. Pepper, I said. Don't be silly.
I think that's why, for example, I was just half joking with Julia and I said, no, I won't pass you the salt. Just to get into the actual atmosphere, into the environment of being in our team.
Right, you're not going to win.
Thank you. Thank you. Well done.
No more helping that team. That's it.
So what we're seeing is a kind of ripple in the lake, if you will. We've thrown a stone into the lake in terms of assignment to the 2 arbitrary groups A and B. And just that simple thing, at 8 o'clock in the morning, just a short while after they've awoken, suddenly interesting group dynamics are emerging.
The group dynamics deteriorate after the day's first activity, a mid-morning canoe race, which, unknown to either team, we've rigged so the A's win. Now their victory is in dispute.
No, sorry, that's a load of crap because if you think about it, no matter who came out of the place first, and they turned around and said, right, you're going with Dave, or you're going with Tom, Dick and Harry, and you're going down here, and we came round here. It doesn't matter where you are, it's the fact that it's up here. No, if you want to win, you've got to win. Yeah, but if you came out the dorms and you was told to go down, just down the bank.
There's nothing to do with that. If we'd all gone up set off at the same time, you were you were already in the water. And we didn't sit on that.
There's no point in debating why you lost. You lost. Sorry, guys, but you lost.
Look at Richard. Yesterday he was an outsider, but simply by giving him a red jacket, he suddenly has a group to belong to. Now people are listening to him.
Story. I mean, you had longer, you had a little bit more practice. I wasn't going to get any better.
Because
I'm not
George has
good at
already
that.
admitted that he wasn't prepared to win.
No,
he's already said he was the weak link.
At the end
so
of the
he's
day,
negatively thinking.
Can I just say this?
Because we're all mates, we're all mates at the end of the day.
Can I say this, people? Congratulations.
Okay.
Congratulations. Congratulations. All right. Okay.
They've been in two teams for 3 hours, and already the harmony and high spirits of yesterday's bonding are evaporating. But things are about to get worse. Sharon thinks Julia's been ignoring her.
Julia, you've seen that you've got the right fucking arsehole.
There was definitely a lot of tension between Julia and Sharon. I thought there could be even a punch-up at one point.
Fucking ignorant. I was about to say, which is like 1 minute. Fucking ignorant.
Julia has sat down at the red table, and I think maybe some of the hostility toward her was that she didn't know her place. She made a big tactical mistake.
I said to you, Julie, you seem really fucked up and pissed off. Right, and there's some fucking silence. Bollocks.
Even her own team members are just walking around her and not giving her any support at all.
The entire group was pretty tight with each other and everyone got along pretty well. And the fact that, we broke up and suddenly, like, a few hours later, we're kind of like at each other's throat almost. I was surprised by that. Yeah. And suddenly that was like us against them.
I certainly ain't going to stand there and take shit from a person that's...
So channel it then, channel it. If someone doesn't react in the way that she likes, she gets the hump and starts effing and blinding.
You always get one bad apple. As soon as you get one bad apple, it rots the whole cart.
And if you're going to start swearing and banging furniture and go for the hump, it's not my problem.
Julia's decision to sit at the wrong table means she's now been cold-shouldered by her own teammates. Behaving differently from your group can make you an outcast. But what would you do if you knew your group was entirely wrong? Would you, for example, sit in a burning room just because everyone else does? This hotel conference suite has been prepared for a focus group discussion on internet shopping. But all is not as it seems. We've been busy. The place is rigged with 4 hidden cameras and 6 concealed microphones. And psychology professor Dominic Abrams is watching from our control room, which we've built in an adjoining suite.
Now it's just a question of sitting and waiting.
Right, so this is a questionnaire all about kind of shopping habits and everything here. So just move that off your chair so you can...
Our first participant is Mary Mizuno, a London student who thinks she's arrived early. What she doesn't know is that behind this door, there's about to be a serious fire in the hotel kitchen. Or at least the illusion of one, created by a smoke machine and some sound effects. What will she do?
She's now noticed the smoke and is concerned. At this point, she decides to investigate to find out what's going on. She's immediately taken responsibility for figuring out what to do.
Mary does the sensible thing and evacuates quickly. She even leaves her bag and coat.
As I've never been in a fire situation before, I tried to remember the kind of things that you're supposed to do, so I left my stuff and just went out.
But Mary was on her own. This time, we've planted 7 actors who are all in on the experiment. We've said to them, when you see the smoke, do nothing. Our second participant is Lauren Heffernan, also a student. What will she do?
In this situation, she'll be following a script. The script is partly written in her mind. It's a script which is borrowed from things like sitting exams. Most situations like this have some element of expected or scripted behaviour.
But what will happen to her script when we make a slightly unusual situation very unusual? Nothing to start with, so we get her attention. Now, how long before she dashes out of the room?
She's checking increasingly to see what the other people are thinking. But who can she appeal to? The answer is nobody. She turns to the norm of the group. Ignore the smoke. In a real fire, the people in this group would be in very serious danger by now.
I was looking for some sort of reaction from someone else, even just the slightest little thing, that they'd recognise that there was something, you know, going on here. For me to kind of react on that and then do something about it, I kind of needed prodding.
She's waiting for someone else to react. Why isn't anyone else reacting? She feels uncomfortable. She doesn't want to embarrass herself by taking the lead, taking action. But something is definitely wrong.
Lauren stayed in the room for 20 minutes after spotting the smoke, concerned but immobile. The fire brigade say that if this fire had been real, even if flames hadn't burnt through the door, she would have died of asphyxiation in this time. In the end, we had to ask her to leave.
What about him? Thanks. I was surprised that I didn't do anything at all. I was just literally waiting. I just thought that someone else is surely going to say something soon. And because no one else did, I just didn't react at all.
We tried the experiment 10 times, and the same thing happened over and over again. If the person was on their own, they left quickly. If they were in a group of 3 or more, they stayed, rooted to the spot. The average length of time they stayed, 13 minutes. In real fires, people die because of behaviour like this. In 1979, a blaze at Woolworths in Manchester killed 10 people.
The fire occurred during the day when the store was occupied by hundreds of people. Most of those people managed to get out quite safely. The people that died in the fire were actually using the restaurant at the time.
But why so many fatalities in the restaurant? Investigators eventually realised that people simply hadn't evacuated. They'd waited to pay their bills. That was their routine.
We go into a restaurant. We sit down, the waiter comes over, we choose a meal, we eat the meal, we pay for the meal, and then we leave the building. That's our script, if you like, for eating a meal.
Worse still, everyone was following the same script, and no one wanted to be the only one to stray.
One of the main reasons why people died in the Woolworths fire is because they didn't want to be the first to react. They didn't want to stand out for the crowd and went along with the crowd behaviour.
Only one person in our experiment didn't go along with the crowd behaviour, artist James McKechnie.
What's that coming up from under the table? Is it fire?
I don't know.
There's a fire.
We should just wait till she comes back. Yeah.
You think?
Yeah.
She said just to wait here, didn't she?
What? Is that? What is that?
Don't know. She said just to wait here, didn't she?
What? Is that?
She's coming right down now.
James isn't going to sit in a dangerous room just because everyone else does.
Yeah.
Or is he? The power of the group proves irresistible.
The reassurances of the rest of the group that somebody else is responsible seem to be sufficient to pull him back into place. Instead of leaving the room and calling for help, he sits back down again and waits. Now everybody's looking at the smoke, but in some ways that gives the group even more influence. After all, if everybody can see the smoke and no one's panicking, well, it would be crazy for him to do it too.
James stays in the room for another 10 minutes before finally leaving. In a real fire, he wouldn't have been able to leave. He'd have been unconscious and close to suffocation. In part 2, we return to our human zoo, where the power of groups has left a trail of conflict and Julia deserted by her own team. But this afternoon, the stakes are raised. Catherine learns the cost of betrayal.
She definitely is going to have to pay a price for that.
I had no idea how it was going to pan out.
So there's a very condescending smack on the face, which is really a symbolic slap.
I think she just wanted to vent her anger on somebody and I was the person.
Three hours after the participants in our human zoo were split into two groups, there's another canoe race, and the divide between the teams is firmly entrenched. The group ethos has been getting stronger by the minute. But Catherine is torn. She and George, from the other team, have become friends.
I still love you, you're good.
I love you. You look good in blue anyway.
You look good in red.
Good. Well, we're happy then, aren't
yes.
we?
As long as we look good at all times.
As long as we look good at all times. And we've got our clown's makeup.
Yes.
Excellent. I think you should better go to the team. But always remember that I love you.
And always remember I love you too.
Things are about to turn nasty.
I was a bit gutted about being separated from Catherine because I felt, because Catherine, Sian and I had sort of made a little clique, if you like, one of them was being taken away and leaving the other two, but I had no idea how it was going to pan out.
Catherine and George take a big risk.
Oh my, here we go.
Running off into the woods together.
They're the little rebels. As innocent as it is, she definitely is going to have to pay a price for that.
George, you're a wet pipe.
Such bosom buddies!
I anticipate a really hostile reaction to her if she doesn't shape up very quickly.
Today's experiment is bearing more fruit, and within the hour, Phil Zimbardo's prediction will be realised. All eyes are now on Catherine, as day 2 of our human zoo becomes a study of what happens if you break the fundamental rule of all groups: be loyal. Back at our Birmingham service station, Charlie's rule-breaking has been causing havoc.
I just thought he was an idiot off his head somewhere, so I just wanted to get out of here, get my food and go, and that was it.
He's loony.
For a minute, it crossed my mind he was a hoofter.
So what on earth's he been up to?
What you having? What you having? He just come up to us and said, I'll get the meal in, what do you want? It's my round.
And was that?
What are we having?
Yeah, it's my round. What do you want? No, let's go on. No, it's my round. No, so you get the next one. What do you want?
I said, we're going, we're not coming back here. When we get this, we're going. He said...
Can't bend your arm.
No, we can pay for ourselves, right?
That's all right, look, honestly, I trust you. You get the next one.
Is that next door, please?
Yeah, just getting a round in.
No, it's not. It's not.
That's all right.
We don't know who he is.
What do you like? Come on, look. Take it out of that.
No, we're going after this. We're taking it with us.
That's fine, it's fine. You know, if I'm here again, you can always buy me another.
It's all right. Next time we meet you at the service station, you can buy me around. It's like that. Come on.
Oh, well, they don't want anything. Sorry.
Just don't do it, do you?
It's just something you don't do. A stranger comes up to you in the street like that. You don't know anything about him. It could be anybody. It's just...
I thought he might follow us in the car on the way back, so give him my money back.
Well, he's breaking a very well-rehearsed rule, which is how you line up to buy food. And the people are very embarrassed by this and don't know what to do. But then they very quickly start treating him as though he's some kind of deviant. They feel very threatened by him. They're worried that he might follow them.
Charlie's not done yet.
Excuse me. Sorry. Do you know the way from here to Newmarket by any chance?
Newmarket.
Yeah.
This man who looked like Rowan Atkinson, or Mr. Bean, came up to me, and he said, "Can you tell me how to get to Newmarket?"
We're on the M5, the M50 takes us to South Wales.
No, you want the M42, then the M40, probably the M40.
M42, M5.
Yeah, then probably the M40. Then you can go around the M25. Then it's up. Basically, it's up the M11, right?
You lost me now. And he says, "No," he says, "you go M11 to Cambridge, turn so-and-so straight into Newmarket."
It's about off the M11. It's only about sort of quarter of an hour off there. There's Newmarket. So is that all right? Or I could draw you a little map or something.
I said, "What do I want to go to Newmarket for?"
Well, what makes you think I want to go to Newmarket?
He says, "You can follow me if you want."
I mean, you could follow me in my car.
No, I'm going to Workshop.
I'm going to Workshop.
Workshop?
Yeah.
Oh, so I can't tell you the way to go to Workshop.
I don't know. Sorry, I don't know the way to Workshop. Sorry.
Okay. And he walked off, and I thought, he's loopy. He could have gone for hours, but I didn't want to be rude to him. Because I thought, to be honest, I thought he was simple.
Even though these people are in a service station and they don't know each other, in a sense they're part of a group and they're following the group's rules, except of course for Charlie. And it's very interesting, of course, that these rules are learned very early on in life. In fact, they're learned at school.
George Abbott School in Guildford, Surrey, has nearly 2,000 pupils who all live within 10 miles of here and are from mostly similar backgrounds. Like all school children, they're divided into groups for lessons, but come break time, they divide themselves.
If you just look across the playground, you'll see that everyone pretty much looks the same. They're all wearing the same uniform, they're the same age, they all have the same accents, they're all the same colour. There's nothing much to distinguish them. So one of the things that's really important to them is to make some differences, to give themselves a sense of being distinctive. And the way they do that is to join different groups and to mark out very important but small differences between each of the groups.
We've been named as the Indie Girls, the four of us. We all wear the same stuff, we're into the same music. There's another group of girls, another large group of girls who are very well recognised, very well known, called the Tracys or the Tarts.
People call us like the Tarts girls, but I don't know, it's because we don't, I don't know, we like to make them like to look after.
We're not subtle, are we?
If you wear socks, you have
to roll them down.
Right.
And your skirt's got to be like skin colour tight, whatever. Skin colour tight, so your legs across.
Shirt in at the front, out at the back.
And then it comes out a little bit at the back. No jumpers unless you're absolutely freezing. Otherwise, because that's what the indie chicks do.
Group of boys in the corner, which we call the grungers, all wear baggy clothes and reputation for being dirty.
The grungers are more like into snowboarding and skateboarding and stuff, like extreme sports, and so kind of more cutting edge.
Up in the cages, where they play football, is another group of boys called the Garys, who are like the opposite to the grungers.
All the Garys hang out here and they hang out down there. This is sort of like our place and that's theirs.
The grungers won't go anywhere near the Garys because it makes them look as if they like football and they like to wear like gold chains and all that lot. And it's the same way around, the Garys wouldn't want to be near the grungers because it makes them look as if they smell.
We don't smell.
What's this?
Much.
13 is a really important age when children are really beginning to figure out who they're going to be as adults. They're figuring out, what should I wear? What should I listen to? What should I be interested in? How should I behave? They're moving from that comfortable time of childhood when they could just do what all the children do to now a kind of transitional period, and there's a lot of uncertainty around for them.
There's even more uncertainty if you're someone like Anna, who's what the rest of the playground call a loner, someone who's not part of a group.
I'm independent and everything, but I do sometimes feel that it would be nice to be in a group, to have somebody else always there to protect you, to stand up for you.
I
I get names called at me, but it doesn't really bother me that much, because if they feel that they have to pick on me because I'm not like them, then it's their own problem.
Anna's proud of her independence and ability to mix, but without realising it, even she's part of a group of loners.
Sometimes these groups are real groups, like these ones out here, like the grungers, for example, and they all sit together and they do everything together. Other times they can be groups that are more kind of in our heads. So some of the people out here, for example, might be treated as loners or counted as loners, but you'll find that they themselves have connections that give them that sense of security, the sense that they know what they're doing the right kind of thing.
The loners have bonded just like the grungers, the Garys, the Indies and the Tarts, and they display all the hallmarks of group mentality, like loyalty and competition. Anna even says it herself.
They're really nice people and everything, and they've got such nice personalities, it can actually be better than some of the people in groups.
So instinctive and subconscious is this need to belong that we're loyal to groups without realising it, and they change our behaviour in powerful ways. In our human zoo, those changes are already well advanced, and Catherine is about to suffer the consequences. In the middle of heated competition between the two groups, she's made a mistake. She's put her friendship with George from the other team before loyalty to her own team. Our resident psychologists have focused their attention on her.
As innocent as it is, she definitely is going to have to pay a price for that.
An hour later, Catherine openly flouts team boundaries yet again.
Right, in a moment, when you've had a drink.
All I saw was that I was split away from George, which I thought was like totally intentional, which was fine. But then when it started getting a bit competitive and a bit heated, I thought, oh heck.
Cafe.
Listen to how the A-team describe her.
Yeah, I think we've got a defector.
We've got a defector.
Ah, there it is. There's the labelling.
What time does it get dark?
Can we have
a different...
We don't need it.
No,
but
that's fine.
It's like a cafe. I think we just have to make more of an effort, maybe not just as a team, maybe just everyone getting on together.
Yeah.
I think at the moment, the group as a whole has just been like, ooh, I think we're here to have fun, we're here to have a good time. A bit competitive,
they're
bit of fun.
competing. You know, there's hundreds of people that didn't even get picked for this, and we're damn lucky to be picked. At the end of the day, if people can't accept it, that it's a task, and you win or lose, end of, at the end of the day.
I'm the one that's going, everybody smile, everybody be happy. I'll go and hug you because you're blue, I'll hug you because you're red, and I'll just love everybody. Because it's such a huggy, lovely person.
So there's a very condescending smack on the face, which is really a symbolic slap. Catherine is not only being humiliated in front of the red team members, she's being humiliated in front of the camera crew. And so they represent the outside world.
But it's got nothing to do with you, yeah? Don't think it's your fault.
It's so small, it really isn't worth even, you know...
That's what I mean. Well, that's why I'm just a bit pissed off, because I don't know why it happened.
Well, exactly. None of us do. None of us do. We don't know what sparked this off.
No. So Catherine now is crying. Here's a really strong emotion, the consequence of feeling that she's being rejected. She wants to be liked not only by all of the A team, but the B team, and especially by George. And they're saying, you can't have it all. You can't have it your way. You have to have it our way. Or else. You know, looking at this reminds me of the Stanford prison experiment, which I did a number of years ago. In many ways, it's very similar.
In 1971, Phil Zimbardo conducted a revolutionary experiment here in the bowels of Stanford University in the United States. It rocked the world of psychology. A group of students were divided randomly into prisoners and guards and lived in a makeshift jail. The prisoners immediately became submissive, and the guards became cruel.
You're not only not getting a cigarette, but for as long as the cell's blockaded, you're...
Within a week, Phil Zimbardo's prison was inhumane, and the experiment had to be cut short. At one stage, prisoner 416 went on hunger strike in protest.
Get in that closet then.
So the guards put him in solitary confinement. Amazingly, his fellow prisoners turned on him too. They were given a chance to release him.
Now what will it be? What will it be over here? 416, you're going to be in there for a while. So just get used to it.
He is totally rejected, not only by the guards, but by his other group of prisoners. and it had a very powerful, profound effect on him. The interesting thing that I reflect back on is there's a direct parallel to the consequences of Catherine's rebelliousness, nonconformity.
Like prisoner 416, Catherine's about to feel the wrath of her own team. Groups don't take kindly to disloyalty.
Richard in particular felt that I wasn't being a particularly good team player because I was like conspiring with the other team, which I found totally stupid because I thought, you've got to be mature about it, haven't you? And I just didn't get it at all. So they said, look, I think you should make more of an effort to be with the team. And Caroline said to me as well, you know, when we're competing, then you should be with the team. You shouldn't be going off talking to George, which I found really daft.
Remember, we only separated them into teams. We didn't ban them from socialising with each other. But not only is Catherine ordered to toe the party line, she's told to make a sacrifice, George.
But now people are getting very nasty and like, you know, basically saying to Catherine she shouldn't talk to myself and Sian because we're on a different team. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's ridiculous. It's like, and it's bullying people and it's like unacceptable behaviour, especially from a bunch of grown adults.
There was a small glitch today between two of us, but I think that's helped us come together as a team and focus on our main goal, which is to win everything.
We've overcome that now. No, we've shed a few tears, but we've overcome that now.
To be quite honest with you, it's no one else's business who I talk to and who I choose not to talk to.
We've had a chat. Other people have basically said their views. But at the end of the day, you are a team.
Now we're all working very much together as a team, and we're thinking about things before we say things.
It's unnecessary behaviour, and it is, as far as I'm concerned, very school playground.
Under duress, Catherine seems to have changed her tune.
I thought the team worked well. Everyone was like, when I was in the car, everyone was cheering me on and everyone was cheering from the sidelines, helping people, and the support of the team and the support network that we had between us, I thought that was a really good thing.
The threat has been neutralised. Catherine has conformed. But loyalty has a price. Today, it's cost her friendship with George. This evening, though, the entire Blue team will pay a price. In part 3, Caroline turns up the heat.
They sulked about it.
I thought that was a bit low.
They just took it to heart.
We maintain the moral high ground.
That was really good.
Now she's enjoying the power, the real power that being a red has.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
We return to our Birmingham service station, and just in time to watch a pickpocket in action. The woman with the rucksack is his victim, and the man in the grey top on the left is the thief. Except they're both acting. In fact, everyone in the queue is with us, apart from the man in the blue shirt. As the thief moves in, will our bystander notice? He clearly has. What's more, he's seen that other people in the queue have noticed too. Now, what's he going to do about it? The answer is nothing. After all, no one else in the queue reacts, so why should he? Chances are, you wouldn't have done anything either. Whatever the man in the blue shirt thinks he's seen, he's influenced by the apathy of everyone else in the queue. In more serious situations, this could have disturbing consequences. Liverpool Street Station in London. A drunk lies on the pavement. In fact, he's our actor, Peter, but these passers-by aren't to know that. And since he looks the worse for wear, not critically ill, they ignore him. Helping would be inconvenient or even risky. He lies there for 20 minutes and no one raises an eyebrow. This time, we've dressed Peter as a respectable city gent. How long before he's rescued now that he looks the part?
Hello, sir. How are you today?
I'm all right, thanks.
6 seconds. She even calls him sir. And suddenly, everyone's a good Samaritan.
Do you suffer from epilepsy?
No.
Why you're lying on the floor in the rain?
After a couple of minutes, even the police turn up.
I
would just hate to be in his position of feeling ill and nobody helping and walking past, so we'd just like to check that he was okay.
I thought, well, it's wet, so he must really be ill because he's going to ruin his suit anyway.
Our actress Ruth takes Peter's place. She's not a drunk, but she's also not a city gent. How long before she gets help? Four minutes have passed, and 34 people have passed.
People don't really want to know. They just haven't got the time. Well, they have got the time, they just don't want to get involved.
But it's more complicated than that. If the street were deserted, a passerby would probably go to the rescue. But these strangers have silently formed a temporary group with a rule: don't help. Like the woman who faced impossible questions in the service station, they're afraid to stand out from the crowd. So like the people in our smoke experiment, they won't take action if nobody else does, even against their own better judgment. This woman, for instance, has clearly spotted Ruth, but she conforms to the rule and does nothing.
You all right? You all right?
Watch what happens, though, when someone else helps.
You all right, you sure?
She suddenly finds herself in a different group with a new rule: to help.
She don't look well, does she? You all right, yeah? What's wrong?
First I thought she was dead. Then I sort of checked to see if she was breathing or not. And I looked around and I couldn't believe that no one had noticed her, because there was a bloke sat there just absorbed in reading a newspaper.
Peter's now having the same problem. This time, we've swapped his suit for casual clothes. He's not drunk, and we've asked him to act like he's in pain.
Help! Help! Help me! Please, somebody! Help me! Help me, somebody! Please help me! Help me! Help me! Help me! Please, somebody help me! Please, somebody help me!
I got onto the tube and sat opposite a guy who threatened me. He'd obviously been sleeping rough and had problems, but he was quite verbally abusive.
Yeah, I was with a group of mates one day. We've seen two fellas arguing. We've literally turned the corner, discussed a few things, came back, and that was it, they were fighting.
I'd got up to walk away from him, he'd followed me, and he sat beside me for 6 or 7 stops, actually threatened to stab me.
We've had a little discussion between each other if we should stop it or not. We decided not to, so we was on our way.
And I was looking at the other passengers and looking at the guard on the carriage, hoping that somebody would help me.
We should have really done something, because at the end of the day, how'd we like it if it was us?
Nobody did anything on the tube. People just ignored me completely. When the guy eventually got off, then people came up and asked if I was okay, but during the journey they'd done nothing.
And that's when the guilt tripped in. We really did realise that it was wrong what we did. How'd you do it? How'd you feel when someone's beating 10 times out of someone? I mean, it could have been me, you, anyone, but deep down we bottled it.
It's always very distressing to watch situations like this where people are obviously suffering and no one's actually helping them. But what we have here is two conflicting rules. One is the rule that we ought to help, and the other is the rule that we ought to do what everybody else is doing. And here you have effectively a group of strangers who are exerting the pressure not to intervene, not to help. And it's very difficult to rebel.
But rebelling is exactly what the participants in our human zoo are doing.
Members of both teams are leading a little revolt here, trying to be one happy family like they were on day one.
3 along this side, 3 along that side, 3 along that side, 3 along that side. But let's just see who sits with whom. So Catherine is sitting next to George, but she's on the red side, he's on the blue side.
And most of the Reds all of the Reds are sitting on the red side of the table.
So it's a very partial rebellion. Yes, they've said, we're not going to let you structure our eating tables, but then they themselves have voluntarily self-segregated.
I doubt these people are even aware that they have sat round the table in that way.
I honestly didn't notice the fact that we were sitting still in our blue and red teams, as opposed to just mixing around the table. we wanted to just make a point that we were going to, you know, break some of the rules. But thinking about it, we should have sort of alternated, gone red, blue, red, blue.
I say to harmony, this group harmony. Cheers. And have a good time. Cheers.
It's a nice try, but things have already gone too far for group harmony. An hour later, we tell the A team they've beaten the B team in the day's activities. They're allowed to impose a forfeit of their choice. They opt for humiliation, cleaning boots and picking up cigarette ends outside. The Bs are put to work.
Sean, what are you doing there? I'm cleaning boots. Yeah, I'm really happy about it.
The moral high ground. And that is what the most important thing is. We maintain the moral high ground.
I thought that was a bit low, especially picking up the fags if you're not a smoker, but as it was, all the smokers picked up the fags, but I think there was a couple of us left to scrub the boots, which I wasn't particularly happy about.
You know, that slightly got us not upset, but kind of just like, you know, we're not really, you know, we're on different teams, but we're not against each other, and we shouldn't be put in that situation.
We will win.
We've seen that the Reds have made assumptions about the meaning of being in the A team. They think that it means that they are better than the Blues, but nevertheless, the Blues are complying with the situational rule to be humiliated in this way.
Yeah, cleaning somebody's boots is a very menial task. Picking up cigarette butts with your bare hands. I mean, they're not tedious tasks, but they're clearly menial.
Can you believe it? I knew they'd make us do this. They're so unkind.
I did feel guilty to some extent of making people clean my boots, and I really didn't want them to do that. I mean, I did say to Dave, and I said to him, I said, look, don't do my boots. If you don't want to do them, don't do them. I'll do them myself.
But Caroline, also from the A team, has no such qualms.
I'm competitive to the end, come what may, and what's the point of entering if you're not going to go for it and win? And we went for it. It was close, very close, but we won at the end, and now they've got to have a forfeit. Great. Yes! Yes, yes, yes!
That's the most animated I've seen Caroline. So now she's enjoying the power, the real power that being a Red has.
Woo! That was really, really good, that. Best part of the day. And I have no problem with dealing the fact that they have to do it. No problem at all, as long as we win tomorrow.
And I think the other thing you see is a little bit of what we think of as the dark side of human nature seeping out. And again, this is clearly what we saw in the Stanford Prison study.
That was really good.
And it's going to make us even tougher tomorrow.
Yeah, that is really,
tomorrow
really
we're going to be really tough.
Tomorrow we're going to really go for it.
Carolyn would make a very good guard in my prison. There's no question about that. She might even be chief of the guards. And I'd feel comfortable that she'd run a very tight ship.
It was just their reaction. They were so funny. It was a major deal to them cleaning a few boots. So what? Why didn't they just get on with it and do it? You know, I just thought it was so funny. You know. So because I seen their reaction, I mean, I just thought it was hilarious. And I thought, right, well, come on, we'll show them a bit more. Come on, get on with it. Clean these boots, shape yourself. You know, because they wanted you. They just took it to heart. They just took it to heart, and they couldn't understand that it was. If they'd have just got on with it and had a laugh about it and a joke about it, then it would have been all right. But they didn't. You know, they sulked about it.
Now my attention is really heavily focused on Caroline because tomorrow we're going to crank up the competition, the intergroup tension, and I anticipate Caroline is going to really begin to take over more and more a dominant role because she's just relishing it so much.
Phil Zimbardo is right to watch Caroline. Yesterday, butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. Today, she's had her first taste of power and liked it. Tomorrow, how far will she be prepared to go?
What is clear, very clear, the A's are in charge.
Caroline did like a Jekyll and Hyde.
I like power.
Her eyes were sort of glaring.
I do like power.
Carolyn is not only who she first seemed to be.
Once you're up there and you get a feel for it, you don't mind staying there.
By lunchtime that day, she had an empire.
Some people take orders better than others, and some people give orders better than others.
Hello! You can't make us physically do it.
What you were seeing here is the beginning, the rise of a dictatorship.
Quiet!
how teenagers are. What's not so obvious is that adults are the same. Groups control us, all of us, more than you think. Welcome to the Human Zoo, an isolated house where we'll reveal the power of groups. Here, 12 strangers are living side by side with 15 cameras they know nothing about, while we watch their every move. Watch what happens when we split one happy family into 2 groups of 6.
Today we're splitting you into 2 groups.
I hadn't expected that.
It's been decided that there'll be a group A and a group B. The A team!
And suddenly that was like us against them.
I had no idea how it was going to pan out.
When it started getting a bit competitive and a bit heated, I thought, oh heck.
I thought there could be even a punch-up at one point.
I think we just have to make more of an effort, maybe not just as a team, maybe just everyone getting on together.
I anticipate a really hostile reaction to her if she doesn't shape up very quickly.
I knew they'd make us do...
3 questions. Would you ignore a woman collapsed in the street?
We should just wait till she comes back.
Would you stay in a building that appears to be on fire just because everyone else does? Would you humiliate someone for not fitting in?
For me, this is the most fascinating thing in the universe, is to try to understand the nature of human nature.
The Human Zoo. Find out what you're capable of. In a school playground, everyone's part of a gang. Going wherever the gang goes, doing whatever the gang does. That's how
I said it too. I was going to a baby massage class with my son Jake, who was 6 months, and there are about 15 other mothers, and the lady who was running the class said, "There's a baby outside who's German measles. Does anyone mind if the baby comes in?"
Me and my mates had gone down to a football match, and we were standing in the stand. And just away from the stand, a bit of trouble had started, where they decided to just wreck the ground.
My baby's health is, of the utmost importance to me. Yet, because no one else said anything in the room, I didn't say anything.
We just got caught up in the emotion of the thing and just ended up throwing seats as well.
I think everyone was looking around the room, waiting for someone to say something, and no one did. So the baby came in.
And it's something I wouldn't normally do, but because everyone else was doing it, I just decided to join in.
The urge to conform is overwhelming. Groups have extraordinary power. So we decided to test that power in our human zoo.
Okay, guys,
14.
Like, I was put at the end of the line, and I didn't know half the questions asked to me, and so it sounded right to me. 4 out of 5 people said it, so why shouldn't I say it? So I think it's an automatic reaction to say or to go along with what people say.
What is the capital of Makata? What is the capital of Makata?
Jedi. No such places as Makata or Jedi.
Jedi. Jedi. Jedi.
Jedi. The first man I thought was rather intelligent, answering all the questions because everybody else seemed to go along with that.
Last question. What is the speed of sound? The speed of sound?
10,010 miles per hour.
Miles out.
10,010 miles an hour. 10,010 miles per hour. 10,010 miles per hour.
10,010 miles per hour.
Okay.
I didn't want to look stupid. Everybody else seemed to know the answer, and so...
Do this. They're so unkind.
They sulked about it.
We maintain the moral high ground.
They just took it to heart. That was really good.
Now she's enjoying the power, the real power that being a red has.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
But first, an ordinary day in an ordinary place. A service station off the M42 near Birmingham. We've come here to demonstrate a basic human need, the need to follow the herd. The man in the suit is Charlie, our actor, who's conducting a bogus general knowledge survey. The people with him are also actors briefed by us, except for the woman in the orange shirt.
Question 1, I'll start at your end. Where do we get ham from?
Pig.
Pig. Pig. Pig.
Easy, but now some impossible ones.
What is the cube root of 97?
14.
A completely wrong, made-up answer.
Yeah, 14. 14.